When a ruthless biker kicked a dog for fun, he had no idea that Keanu Reeves was the owner. What started as a quiet afternoon stroll soon escalated into an intense confrontation, reinforcing the timeless lesson: never mess with a man's dog. Before we dive into this story, tell us, where are you watching this from? Share your city or country in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because tomorrow we'll have another inspiring story made just for you. Brooklyn Heights, surrounded by its imposing concrete walls, basked in the trapped morning heat as the bustling film set of John Wick carried on. The air was thick with the scent of hot asphalt, mingled with faint aromas of street food from nearby vendors. The set was a hive of activity, with camera equipment scattered around and cables snaking across the ground like dormant serpents. That's a wrap for this scene, folks. The director's voice sliced through the buzz of the set. We'll take a 1-hour lunch break and meet back here for the next shoot. The crew let out a collective sigh of relief, their voices soon blending into a lively chatter as they discussed lunch plans. Near the catering truck, a group of crew members called out, "Hey, Keanu, we're heading to that new deli on Atlantic Avenue. Want to come?" Keanu Reeves, with his signature friendly smile, turned towards the group. However, his attention quickly shifted to Buddy, the pit bull who had been starring in their scenes. The dog stood panting heavily in the oppressive heat, his tongue lolling as he sought relief. "You guys go ahead," Keanu replied, his gaze still fixed on Buddy. "I think I'll take care of our four-legged friend here and give him a walk. He looks like he could use it." The dog keeper, a lanky man with a clipboard under his arm, stepped forward. "That's all right, Mr. Reeves. I can handle Buddy. It's my job after all." Keanu raised a hand, his expression earnest. "I'd like to do it if that's okay. It'll help me bond with him for our upcoming scenes." He hesitated for a moment before adding thoughtfully, "Plus, I've always wondered what it's like to own a dog, even if it's just for a short time." The dog keeper hesitated, his brow furrowing slightly. Keanu quickly reassured him, "Don't worry, we won't go far. I'll make sure he gets a snack and some water." After a brief pause, the dog keeper nodded. "All right, Mr. Reeves, just be careful. Buddy's a sweetheart, but he can be a handful sometimes." With the keeper's approval, Keanu prepared for their walk. He secured Buddy's leash with gentle precision, accepted a handful of plastic bags, and tucked a collapsible water container into his jacket pocket. Kneeling to Buddy's level, he said warmly, "Are you up for a walk, Buddy? Let's find a quiet place to rest." Buddy wagged his tail enthusiastically, his earlier discomfort forgotten in the face of Keanu's attention. "I know you're thirsty," Keanu added, noticing Buddy's persistent panting. "Let's find a water fountain." With a quick wave to the remaining crew, Keanu and Buddy stepped out into the sun-drenched streets of Brooklyn Heights. The pavement shimmered in the midday heat, and Buddy's panting grew more urgent as they walked. Keanu scanned the surroundings, searching for a water fountain or a dog-friendly spot. Turning a corner, they spotted a weathered sign that read "Iron and Ash" above a gritty biker bar. The low rumble of motorcycles filled the air, and gleaming bikes lined the entrance like sentinels. Keanu's grip on Buddy's leash tightened instinctively as he took in the scene. The bar's tough exterior and rowdy patrons presented a stark contrast to the trendy boutiques nearby. Just as Keanu considered turning away, he noticed a water fountain nestled between two motorcycles. Relieved, he led Buddy over, retrieved the collapsible container, and filled it with cool water. Buddy eagerly lapped it up as a burly man with tattooed arms approached the fountain. "Nice pit bull you've got there," the man said, his gravelly voice surprisingly friendly. "People often misjudge them, loyal to a fault if you treat them right, kind of like us bikers." Keanu nodded appreciatively. "You're right about that. There's often more than meets the eye." Their conversation was interrupted by a waitress stepping out of the bar. Her tired face brightened when she saw Buddy. "Oh, what a handsome boy," she exclaimed, kneeling to pet him. Buddy responded with a wagging tail and a gentle lick. "He's such a good boy," she said, scratching behind his ears. Then, leaning closer to Keanu, she whispered with a smirk, "Kinder than half the men inside, I'd wager." Keanu chuckled, thanking her for her kindness before preparing to leave. As they walked away, raised voices drew his attention. He turned to see the waitress engaged in a heated argument with a group of 5 intimidating bikers. "I told you yesterday, you're not welcome here anymore," she declared, her voice firm despite the bikers towering over her. "After what happened last time, the boss was clear. You're banned." One of the bikers, a hulking man with a shaved head, stepped closer. "Move aside, sweetheart," he growled, "or we'll move you ourselves." Before Keanu could intervene, a group of other bikers emerged from the bar. They positioned themselves protectively around the waitress. "You heard the lady," one of them said, his tone low and threatening. "Time for you to leave." Sensing the situation could turn violent, Keanu decided it was best to retreat with Buddy. He quietly led the dog away, his heart racing from the tension he had just witnessed. After several blocks, they reached a quieter part of the neighborhood, where tree-lined streets provided welcome shade. As they rounded a corner, a quaint cafe came into view. Its peaceful patio, adorned with wrought iron furniture, was a stark contrast to the chaotic scene they had just left behind. Keanu found a seat under a tree and poured some water into Buddy's bowl. The dog lapped it up contentedly, finally cooling down from the heat. Keanu watched him, a small smile playing on his lips. "You're a good boy, Buddy," he said softly. As they rested, Keanu reflected on the day's events. The streets of Brooklyn Heights had shown him both the warmth and the tension of the community. But through it all, Buddy's unwavering trust reminded him of the simple joys of companionship. Little did Keanu know, this peaceful moment was only the calm before the storm. The patio was open and welcoming, with wrought iron tables and chairs scattered beneath a canopy of string lights. Even during the day, the soft glow of the bulbs added a whimsical charm to the atmosphere. Near the entrance stood a chalkboard sign, its specials written in vibrant and artistic lettering. Keanu paused momentarily, scanning the inviting scene. The shaded patio seemed like the perfect spot to unwind, grab a meal, and keep Buddy comfortable at the same time. Having made up his mind, Keanu approached one of the tables. With practiced ease, he unhooked Buddy's leash and guided him to the chair beside his. "Up you go, boy," Keanu said gently, patting the seat. Buddy, a large yet graceful pit bull, needed no further encouragement. He leapt onto the chair and settled in, his calm demeanor drawing approving smiles from nearby diners. Keanu relaxed into his chair, only to be approached moments later by a waitress. Her name tag read, "Maggie," and she carried herself with the ease of someone who genuinely enjoyed her work. "Good afternoon," she greeted warmly. Her professional smile softened as her gaze landed on Buddy. "Oh, aren't you a handsome boy?" she added with a playful tilt of her head. Keanu smiled back. "He is, isn't he? I hope it's okay that he's up here with me." Maggie waved off his concern. "As long as he's well behaved, he's more than welcome. What can I get for you today?" "I'll have a coffee and a steak sandwich, please. And, if possible, an unsalted steak portion for my friend here," Keanu said, gesturing to Buddy, who perked up at the mention of food. "Of course," Maggie replied, jotting down the order. "One coffee, one steak sandwich, and a special treat for the gentleman," she added with a wink toward Buddy. As Maggie headed back inside, Keanu pulled a folded script from his jacket pocket and spread it across the table. Between reviewing lines, he reached over to give Buddy a reassuring pat. "Just a little longer, Buddy," he murmured. "Food's coming soon." Maggie soon returned with a steaming cup of coffee. "Here's your coffee," she said brightly. "Your steak and your friend's special order will be out in just a moment." Keanu thanked her, the rich aroma of coffee rousing his senses. Just as he lifted the cup to his lips, a sudden commotion disrupted the tranquil atmosphere. A burly man in a biker vest, his face twisted in a sneer, passed their table and muttered loud enough for Keanu to hear. "Filthy animals, sitting at the table like they're people." Before Keanu could react, the man lashed out with his boot, catching Buddy in the side. The dog let out a pained whimper, which quickly turned into defensive barking. The peaceful patio erupted into chaos as patrons turned their attention to the scene. Keanu sprang to his feet, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. His relaxed demeanor was gone, replaced by a protective fury. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" he demanded, his voice low and taut with anger. The biker hesitated, clearly startled by Keanu's swift response, but recovered quickly, stepping back from Buddy's growls. "Control your beast," the man spat, glaring at the dog. How dare it show its teeth to a man? Keanu knelt beside Buddy, his hand resting firmly but gently on the dog's back. Buddy only reacts to threats, he said, his voice steady. You provoked him. He's never hurt anyone unless they've hurt him first. The biker sneered, his expression dripping with disdain. Coward dog, coward owner, he taunted. Keanu's composure faltered. His hand shot out, gripping the front of the biker's vest. A collective gasp rippled through the patio as the tension climbed. Yet, just as quickly, Keanu released his grip, his years of discipline helping him regain control. You'll regret this, the biker growled, brushing off his vest as he stormed away. The sound of his heavy boots thudded against the patio floor. Keanu couldn't help but notice the snarling tiger insignia on the man's vest. It was the same emblem he'd seen earlier on some troublemakers outside Iron and Ash. A chill ran through him, but he forced himself to focus on the present. Kneeling once more, he checked Buddy over for injuries, relieved to find none. The aroma of grilled steak wafted back to him, reminding him of why they'd stopped in the first place. Maggie returned, her face clouded with concern as she set their food on the table. I'm so sorry about that, she said. Are you both okay? We're fine, Keanu reassured her with a faint smile. Sorry for the commotion. Maggie shook her head. No need to apologize. Those bikers have been causing trouble around here for weeks. This is the first time one's gone after an animal, though. She hesitated, lowering her voice. The owner's trying to hire security, but it's not easy. As Maggie excused herself, Keanu tried to shake off the tension. Buddy, seemingly unfazed, perked up at the sight of his steak. A string of drool dangled from his mouth, prompting Keanu to chuckle. All right, Buddy, he said, sliding the plate closer. Let's eat. We've earned it. The meal provided a welcome distraction, but Keanu's thoughts kept drifting back to the biker's ominous threat. He couldn't shake the feeling that their paths would cross again. For now, though, he focused on the simple joy of sharing a meal with his loyal companion. As they finished their food, Keanu checked his watch. Their break had flown by, and it was time to head back to the set. He gave Buddy an affectionate pat. All right, boy, we've got to get going, but first, I need to use the restroom. Mind waiting here? Buddy tilted his head as if understanding, then settled back in his chair. Keanu secured the leash to the table leg and caught Maggie's eye. Would you mind keeping an eye on him for a minute? Of course, Maggie said with a reassuring smile. Keanu weaved through the cafe to the restrooms, groaning inwardly when he saw the line. As he waited, a sense of unease crept over him, though he brushed it off. Buddy was safe, after all. When he finally returned to the patio, his heart sank. Buddy sat alone, his leash still tied to the table, but something was wrong. The dog was wheezing, struggling to breathe. Keanu rushed to his side, panic rising. Water, he called out. I need water. A young waitress, her name tag read Ella, hurried over with a bottle. Keanu carefully tilted Buddy's head, pouring the water slowly. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Then, with a heave, Buddy managed to swallow, his breathing stabilizing. As Keanu comforted Buddy, Maggie returned, breathless and apologetic. I'm so sorry. The kitchen needed me urgently. I asked Ella to keep an eye on him. Ella stepped forward, her expression uneasy. There was a man, she said hesitantly. He seemed friendly. He gave the dog a sausage. I thought it was okay. Ella described the man, stocky, bearded, with a mohawk and leather gloves. Keanu's stomach dropped as he recognized the description, the same insignia from earlier. Punch to the gut. This wasn't an accident, it was deliberate. Is there a vet nearby? Keanu asked urgently, his eyes darting between Maggie and Ella, already fearing the worst, that something else was inside the sausage. They exchanged a quick glance before Maggie nodded. There's one about 3 blocks from here, she said, pointing down the street. Take a left at the next intersection. You can't miss it. Keanu nodded, his mind already racing ahead. He left a generous tip on the table, along with money for the bottled water, and prepared to leave. But as he stood up, Buddy suddenly collapsed, his legs giving out beneath him. The dog's condition was deteriorating rapidly. His tail hung limp, his eyes were unfocused, and distressed whimpers escaped his throat. Keanu knew they didn't have a moment to lose. Without hesitation, Keanu scooped Buddy into his arms. The dog's substantial weight made the task challenging, but adrenaline lent Keanu strength. With a final nod of thanks to the shocked waitresses, Keanu set off at a run toward the veterinary clinic, praying they wouldn't be too late. Keanu's heart pounded in his chest as he raced through the streets of Brooklyn Heights, Buddy's weight cradled in his arms. The urgency of the situation was evident in his rapid pace and focused determination. Passers-by turned to stare at the sight of a man carrying a large pit bull, but Keanu paid them no mind. His entire world had narrowed down to the precious cargo in his arms and the desperate need to reach the veterinary clinic. The 3 blocks to the clinic felt like miles. Sweat beaded on Keanu's forehead, both from exertion and fear. Buddy's condition seemed to worsen with each passing moment, his whimpers growing weaker, his body becoming increasingly limp. Finally, the clinic came into view, its white facade and blue cross sign like a beacon of hope. Keanu burst through the doors, his voice hoarse as he called out, "Please, I need help. My dog's been poisoned." The reception area erupted into action. A woman in scrubs, her name tag identified her as Dr. Harper, quickly took charge of the situation. "Bring him this way," she directed, leading Keanu to an examination room. "Put him on the table." Keanu gently laid Buddy on the cold metal surface, his hands lingering for a moment on the dog's fur. Dr. Harper immediately began her examination, her movements quick and precise. "Can you tell me what happened?" she asked, her eyes never leaving Buddy as she checked his vital signs. Keanu recounted the events at the cafe as best he could, his words tumbling out in a rush. "Someone fed him something. A sausage, I think, but it must have been laced with something. He started choking, and then he just collapsed." Dr. Harper nodded, her face grave. "His pupils are dilated, and his symptoms are consistent with poisoning, likely drug-related, given how quickly it's affecting him." She turned to a nearby nurse. "We need to run blood tests immediately to identify the substance and administer the antidote." As the nurse hurried to carry out the order, Dr. Harper outlined her immediate treatment plan. "We're going to start by giving him activated charcoal to neutralize the poison," she explained. "We'll also put him on IV fluids to flush the toxins and help stabilize his condition while we wait for the test results." Keanu nodded, trying to process the information through his worry. "Do whatever you need to do," he said. "Just please, save him." As the medical team worked on Buddy, Keanu found himself ushered back to the waiting room. The reality of the situation began to sink in, and with it came the realization that he needed to inform the film crew about what had happened. With shaking hands, he pulled out his phone and dialed the director's number. The conversation was brief but weighty. Keanu explained the situation, his voice catching as he relayed the seriousness of Buddy's condition. The director's initial frustration at the disruption to the shooting schedule quickly gave way to concern. "Don't worry about the shoot," the director assured him. "We'll reschedule. Just take care of Buddy. And Keanu, make sure you document everything. We might need it for insurance or legal reasons." After ending the call, Keanu arranged for the film's dog keeper to come to the clinic. He knew they would need to properly document the incident, both for the production and in case they decided to pursue legal action against Buddy's attacker. As he settled in for what promised to be an anxious wait, Keanu couldn't help but reflect on how quickly this day had spiraled out of control. What had started as a simple walk had turned into a life-or-death situation. Somewhere out there, the man responsible for this was still free. Keanu's jaw clenched at the thought. He had always prided himself on being a peaceful person, on choosing diplomacy over confrontation. But in this moment, as he waited to hear if Buddy would survive, he found himself wrestling with a desire for justice. Or was it vengeance that he had rarely experienced before? The minutes ticked by slowly, each one feeling like an eternity as Keanu waited for news about Buddy's condition. The sterile smell of the clinic, the muted sounds of other animals, and the quiet efficiency of the staff all blended into a surreal backdrop to his worried thoughts. All he could do now was wait and hope that they had reached help in time. At precisely 1:42 p.m., after what felt like hours but had only been about 30 minutes, Dr. Harper emerged from the treatment area. Her face was serious but not grim, which Keanu took as a hopeful sign. She approached him, clipboard in hand, her demeanor professional yet compassionate. "Mr. Reeves," she began, taking a seat next to him. I have the blood test results. Keanu leaned forward, his heart racing. How is he? Is Buddy going to be okay? Dr. Harper nodded slowly. Buddy is stable for now, but he's not out of the woods yet. The blood tests revealed a concerning combination of substances in his system. She paused, her brow furrowing slightly. We found traces of a powerful narcotic mixed with chemicals similar to those found in rat poison. It's a combination that could have been lethal without quick intervention. Keanu felt his blood run cold at her words. The deliberate nature of the attack became even clearer. This wasn't just a cruel prank, but a calculated attempt to seriously harm or even kill Buddy. The good news, Dr. Harper continued, is that we caught it early. The activated charcoal we administered has helped neutralize much of the poison, and the IV fluids are working to flush his system. We've also started him on specific antidotes for the identified toxins. As Dr. Harper explained the details of Buddy's treatment plan, Keanu found his mind drifting to the biker who had threatened them. The pieces were falling into place. The confrontation at the cafe, the man who had fed Buddy the sausage, and now this poisoning attempt. It was all connected, and the realization filled Keanu with a mixture of anger and determination. His thoughts were interrupted by the arrival of the film's dog keeper. The man looked worried and slightly out of breath, as if he had rushed over as soon as he got the call. Mr. Reeves, he said, approaching them. I came as soon as I heard. How's Buddy doing? Keanu stood briefly, filling the dog keeper in on Buddy's condition and the events that had led to it. As he spoke, he felt a shift within himself. He had brought Buddy into this situation, however unintentionally, and now he felt responsible for seeing it through. I need to go settle something, Keanu said, his voice low and determined. Can you stay here and watch over Buddy? The dog keeper nodded, though he looked confused. Of course, but where are you going? Keanu's expression hardened. There's someone I need to find, the person responsible for this. He turned to Dr. Harper. Doctor, I'm covering all of Buddy's medical expenses. Please do everything you can for him. Dr. Harper assured him they would provide the best possible care. As Keanu prepared to leave, he methodically returned the leash, water container, and waste bags to the dog keeper, the act feeling symbolic of his transfer of responsibility. I'll be back, Keanu promised, his voice carrying a weight of determination. Take care of him. With one final glance at the door leading to the treatment area, Keanu strode out of the clinic. His steps were purposeful, his resolve unshakable. He knew exactly where he needed to go. Back to Iron and Ash, the bar where this ordeal had begun. As he walked through the streets of Brooklyn Heights, Keanu's mind was clear and focused. This wasn't about revenge, he told himself. It was about justice, ensuring that whoever had done this to Buddy couldn't harm anyone else. Yet, beneath that resolve simmered a quiet anger, a deep-seated fury at the callousness of harming an innocent animal. The sun was beginning its descent as Keanu approached Iron and Ash. The bar loomed before him, its weathered exterior a stark contrast to the trendy establishments surrounding it. Across the street, Keanu paused, taking a moment to gather his thoughts. The plan to confront the biker responsible suddenly seemed reckless. He was just one man, a recognizable celebrity no less, walking into a den of potentially hostile individuals. He observed the scene carefully. Outside the bar, a group of bikers laughed loudly, their aggressive postures and harsh voices a stark reminder of the danger they posed. The female waitress, who had stood her ground during their last visit, was nowhere to be seen. In her place was a visibly nervous male employee sweeping near the entrance as the bikers forced their way inside. Keanu crossed the street and approached the employee, keeping his tone casual. "Rough crowd," he said, nodding toward the door. The employee looked up, startled. His eyes widened in recognition before darting back to the bar. "You have no idea," he muttered, his voice barely audible. "The girl who was working earlier? She's in the hospital." Keanu stiffened, the news hitting him like a blow. He leaned in, lowering his voice. "How long has this been going on?" The employee sighed, his shoulders slumping. "Months now. It's getting worse. Last month, they broke my nose and 2 fingers when I tried to stand up to them." He flexed his hand unconsciously, wincing at the memory. "I've thought about quitting, but what?" Keanu prompted gently. The man hesitated before admitting. I handed in my resignation, but the boss begged me to stay until they find a replacement. He said he needs all hands on deck to deal with this. He gestured vaguely toward the bar. Keanu's frown deepened. The sense of injustice burned hotter within him. "That's not right," he said firmly. "You shouldn't have to put yourself in danger like this." The employee shrugged helplessly. "The boss knows where I live. I'm scared of what they might do if I just walk away." As they spoke, Keanu's attention was drawn to the darkened windows of the bar. Through the grimy glass, he could see the bikers initiating another conflict, their aggressive behavior unchecked. It wasn't just one dog or one incident. It was a pattern of intimidation that spread across the entire community. A plan began to form in Keanu's mind. He had connections, people who could handle this situation legally and safely. One name stood out: Sheriff Hank Morrison, a close friend with the authority to bring this to an end. Keanu turned back to the employee. "Listen, I think I know someone who can help." The employee nodded, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "Who are you going to call?" Keanu gave him a reassuring smile. "Someone who can put an end to this, legally and safely. Just keep your head down and stay safe. Help is on the way." With that, Keanu stepped away and pulled out his phone. Dialing Sheriff Morrison's number, his fingers moved with purpose. "Hank," Keanu said when the call connected, his voice low and urgent. "It's Keanu. I need your help with a situation in Brooklyn Heights." Keanu explained the day's events succinctly, describing the poisoning, the bikers, and the growing threat they posed. "They're at a bar called Iron and Ash," he said, his eyes never leaving the bar's entrance. "I think they might have illegal substances on them. They poisoned Buddy with something laced into a sausage." Morrison's voice was calm but serious. "Understood, Keanu. Don't do anything rash. Stay put and don't engage. We'll be there soon." Keanu agreed, ending the call with a sense of relief. He trusted Hank to handle the situation professionally. Now, all he had to do was wait. As the sound of approaching sirens filled the air, Keanu turned to see several police cars pulling up silently. Officers poured out, their movements coordinated and purposeful. The tide was finally turning. Justice for Buddy and the entire neighborhood was at hand. Keanu observed as the police moved with precision, entering the bar swiftly and taking advantage of the element of surprise. The bikers had no time to react before the officers secured the premises. From his vantage point outside, Keanu could see the commotion unfolding within. Tables were being overturned, and patrons were rounded up with practiced efficiency. The search of the bar was thorough and deliberate. Through snippets of conversation between officers as they exited, Keanu learned they had discovered a significant cache of illegal substances. This wasn't just about personal use. The storage area revealed evidence of an organized distribution operation. As the arrests commenced, a mix of emotions swept over Keanu. Relief that justice was being served, satisfaction that a threat to the community was being eradicated, and a lingering anger at what had been done to Buddy. The arrests were carried out with professional rigor. Each suspect was restrained, their rights read aloud as they were escorted to the waiting police vehicles. The flashing lights from the squad cars cast an eerie glow over the scene, drawing a crowd of curious onlookers. Feeling the growing attention, Keanu discreetly slipped on his sunglasses. He had achieved what he set out to do, and now it was time to step back and let the authorities take over. As the last of the bikers was led away, Keanu's thoughts shifted to Buddy. With the immediate danger neutralized, he could focus on what truly mattered: the dog's recovery and safe return to the film set. Casting one final glance at the chaotic scene, Keanu turned and began walking toward the veterinary clinic. The events of the day had taken an unexpected turn, but he felt a sense of closure, knowing those responsible for Buddy's suffering would face justice. On his way, Keanu's path crossed that of the arrested bikers being loaded into police vehicles. Suddenly, he found himself face to face with a familiar figure, the man who had kicked Buddy at the cafe. Recognition flared in the biker's eyes, a mix of anger and fear flashing across his face as he realized who stood before him. For a moment, time seemed to freeze as their gazes locked. Keanu felt a surge of emotions: anger, disgust, and an unexpected sense of pity for someone whose life had spiraled to this point. Taking a deep breath to steady himself, he spoke in a calm, measured tone. "You know," Keanu said, his voice low but firm. "There's a line I recently read that feels fitting right now. You don't mess with a man's dog." He let the words hang in the air, allowing their weight to settle. This is real life, and actions have real consequences. The biker's face twisted in rage. "I hope that dog died." He spat, struggling against the officer's grip. Keanu's expression didn't waver, though his eyes hardened. He didn't. And now you'll have plenty of time to think about why hurting an innocent animal seemed like a good idea. With that, Keanu turned and walked away, refusing to look back even as the biker hurled obscenities at him. The officers quickly silenced the man, shoving him into the back of a police car. As Keanu continued toward the veterinary clinic, a weight seemed to lift from his shoulders. The brief confrontation had given him a sense of closure. He had faced the man responsible for Buddy's suffering without resorting to violence or vengeance. The streets, which had earlier witnessed him rushing with an injured Buddy, now bore witness to his steady, determined stride. Upon arriving at the clinic, Keanu was greeted by Dr. Harper, who offered a tired but reassuring smile. "Mr. Reeves," she said, "I'm pleased to report that Buddy is stabilizing." The antidotes and supportive care, a wave of relief washed over Keanu. "That's wonderful news, Doctor. What's the next step?" Dr. Harper led him to Buddy's recovery area, explaining as they walked. "We'll keep him under observation for the next 24 hours to monitor for any complications. He'll need a regimen of medications, anti-nausea drugs and liver protectants, as well as a special diet to support his recovery." When they reached Buddy's enclosure, Keanu's heart ached at the sight. The dog lay on a soft bed, connected to various monitors and IVs. Despite the tubes and wires, Buddy's tail gave a weak wag when he saw Keanu, bringing a lump to the actor's throat. "Hey, Buddy," Keanu said softly, kneeling to meet the dog's gaze. "You're going to be okay. We got the bad guys." Dr. Harper smiled at the interaction. "If there are no complications, Buddy should be able to go home tomorrow. You'll need to follow the medication regimen and diet instructions, but his prognosis is excellent." Keanu nodded, mentally noting every detail. "I'll be here first thing in the morning," he promised. "My hotel is nearby, so I can come quickly if anything changes." As they finalized the care plan, Keanu's attention was drawn to a small TV in the clinic's reception area. The local news was reporting on the arrests at the Iron and Ash Bar, highlighting multiple charges against the biker gang. The segment focused particularly on animal cruelty, mentioning that detectives had found traces of dog fur on one suspect's boots. While tests were pending confirmation, the evidence painted a damning picture. Keanu felt a sense of satisfaction. Justice was being served, and the neighborhood would be safer for it. He noted with relief that the news made no mention of his involvement. Sheriff Hank had honored his promise of discretion. The report also stated that the bar's owner was under investigation and that the establishment would remain closed pending further inquiry. The day's events seemed poised to bring meaningful change to the community. As Keanu prepared to leave the clinic, a complex mix of emotions settled over him. The day had been a roller coaster of fear, anger, and relief. But above all, he felt a deep bond with Buddy that transcended their on-screen relationship. They had endured something real together, something that would undoubtedly enhance their connection when they returned to the set. With a final pat for Buddy and heartfelt thanks to Dr. Harper and her team, Keanu stepped into the early evening air. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, adjusting the film schedule, ensuring Buddy's recovery, but for now, he felt content knowing they had overcome a significant hurdle together. As he walked back to his hotel, the bustling streets of Brooklyn Heights seemed different. The resolution of the conflict at the bar had lifted a shadow, leaving the neighborhood feeling lighter, safer. Keanu's thoughts drifted to Buddy and the unexpected bond that had formed between them. What had started as a simple walk to help him get into character had turned into a life-or-death struggle that tested not only his acting skills, but his real-life courage and determination. Keanu couldn't help but wonder how this experience would influence their on-screen chemistry. The shared ordeal had created a connection that went beyond the script, a genuine trust and affection that would shine through in their performances. As he neared his hotel, Keanu's phone rang. The producer's name flashed on the screen. Taking a deep breath, Keanu answered. Keanu, the producer's voice was a mix of concern and frustration. "How's Buddy doing?" Keanu gave a concise update, emphasizing the positive outlook. He could almost hear the producer calculating the impact on the shooting schedule. "This is going to set us back," the producer said with a sigh. "We'll need to rearrange the schedule, maybe shoot some of your solo scenes first." "I understand," Keanu replied, "but Buddy's health has to come first. We can't rush his recovery." There was a pause before the producer's tone softened. "You're right, we'll make it work." As the call ended, Keanu received a text from Sheriff Hank. "Operation successful. All suspects in custody. Evidence secured. Your involvement remains confidential. Well done, Keanu." A small smile crossed Keanu's lips. The sheriff's efficiency and discretion reassured him that Buddy and the community were safer now. Though the adventure had ended, Keanu knew his journey with Buddy was far from over. Tomorrow would bring a new day, new scenes to shoot, and a deeper bond with his four-legged co-star. As he drifted to sleep that night, Keanu's face held a contented smile, a reflection of the strength and satisfaction that come from facing adversity and emerging stronger. If you enjoyed this story, we have many more that will warm your heart. Click the screen to explore more stories of hope, compassion, and resilience.